The corners should be very exciting indeed, Ben.
This year we've seen 3 different winners in the shape of Moore, Fernandez and Montoya, but there's plenty of other drivers out there who are hoping to become the 4th face on the podium. There's the overhead view. The car's actually out on circuit now, being led round by the PPG pace cars. And a great view of the track down to your right-hand side. That's turn number 3. Then you see them run along the start-finish straight into turn 1, which used to be a flat-out kink, but it isn't anymore.
Brian Herter says that it officially been upgraded to turn status this year. Very tough indeed.
That's the scene then as we get ready for the start of the race. Nazareth 225 is the 4th round of a series which sees the top 5 drivers covered by just 9 points in the title battle. A stiff breeze blows across this eastern part of Pennsylvania, less than 2 hours drive inland from New York. Let's take a look then at the grid. Juan Montoya on his first ever pole, and Unser Castroneves in the Lola alongside him. It's his first ever front row start. The second row of the grid sits an all-team green affair with Dario Franchitti 3rd ahead of teammate Paul Tracy.
On row 3 of the grid is Mark Blundell, who has by far his best performance on the short oval, and Patrick Carpentier, who was on the pole here 1 year ago. Row 4, Max Papis, another good effort for Team Rahal and PJ Jones.
Adrian Fernandez, the winner in Motegi, next up with championship leader Greg Moore, and row 6, last year's winner Jimmy Vasser, with Christian Fittipaldi.
Row 7, Gilles de Ferran, the best of the Goodyear contingent, and Michael Andretti, hometown hero. Row 8, Mauricio Guzmin, been good all weekend, and Brian Herter for Team Rahal.
Row 9, Cristiano De Mata, and a good performance in the Eagle from Alex Barron. Then Richie Hearn on row 10 with Long Beach pole sitter Tony Kanaan.
On row 11, Scott Pruitt and Michel Jourdain Jr. And on the final row is Unser Jr. and Robbie Gordon.
A couple of drivers not taking part in this weekend's race, including Shigeaki Hattori and Dennis Vitolo. Looking at the analysis of this track, we call it a 1-mile oval for the sake of expediency. In fact, the distance is 0.946. Just doesn't sound so good. The race distance, 225 laps. And look at that. The positions on the grid from 1 to 24 separated by a full 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, and we're on board there with Robbie Gordon. This is on board with Scott Pruitt here, who we'll be following during the race. This is Richie Hearn, another of the Toyota engine cars, and we've got plenty of onboard cameras and lots of action this afternoon. There, of course, Michael Andretti. He lives just a couple of miles from here, and Jimmy Vasser, who starts 11th on the grid, but has a very good race car. He really is optimistic of a good run today. He won here last year. And just a quick note, the final row of the grid, Robbie Gordon and Unser Jr. This morning in a warm-up, those two are 4th and 5th, Ben.
That's right, and we're likely to see a lot of changes in this race. Qualifying was one thing with the cars running single car, but now in the race it's going to be different. Here we go then, getting ready for the start of round 4 of the championship. Juan Montoya leads the field for the first time, his first ever pole position in only his 4th race in the Champ Cars. He's made a break and it's green flag, and Montoya leads on the first lap from the white car of Unser Castroneves, an unfamiliar car perhaps to some, although he's run well up in many of the races so far this year. That Lola chassis in 2nd place has been in superb form. Then it's Franchitti in 3rd place with Paul Tracy, his teammate, next up, and then Greg Moore, and no, sorry, that was Patrick Carpentier, his teammate, making up a place.
And PJ Jones here trying to get past Carpentier. Good dice there. There is Max Papis, who gets past the car of Adrian Fernandez, the winner in Motegi just a couple of weeks ago.
So, good start from Juan Montoya then, capitalising on his first ever pole position on an oval. But this oval, they say, more like a road course, as PJ Jones has a little look at getting past Greg Moore. Now, the drivers say overtaking is going to be almost impossible in this low downforce setup with the cars. But are they going to be right? Is it going to be easier than they think? They're taking it carefully. The early laps, the tyres are still coming up to temperature, and we've found throughout the practice days that it takes some 4 or 5 laps before the tyres are fully up to temperature. But having said that, PJ Jones is the man who looks most likely to overtake in these early laps.
Speaking to Michael Andretti just this morning after the warm-up, he didn't really know what to expect this afternoon. He has been a proponent of this switch to the smaller wings. He says it's going to bring more the element of the driver, the real talent of the driver is going to be allowed to shine more with this configuration. But he really didn't know what to expect this afternoon. He thinks he's got a good car. He thinks he's going to be able to make his way towards the front of the grid. We'll see.
Juan Montoya has an advantage of about a second, and then there's another 1.5 seconds back to Paul Tracy. It is in fact in third, ahead of Dario Franchitti in fourth place, Mark Blundell fifth, ahead of Patrick Carpentier in sixth position. But watch Juan Montoya. He has been so impressive again this weekend. He said everybody warned him about this place. You're just actually riding on board at the moment with his teammate Jimmy Vasser. But just going back to Montoya, he said everybody warned him about this place. They said after he'd gone well early in the year, well, you just wait till you get to Nazareth. That is a completely different deal. And he said, I love this place. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. He says you can hustle a car like you can on a road course. He doesn't seem to be intimidated by the proximity of the walls. And in practice and in qualifying, he has been breathtaking with his commitment. Meanwhile, though, his teammate there, Jimmy Vasser, as you mentioned, Jeremy, in confident mood this morning. Jimmy himself running in 11th place, and he was the race winner here last year.
There is Juan Montoya, the race leader. And right ahead of him, though, is Robbie Gordon, who is running last in this race. And ahead of him is Unser Jr. This is where the interest really comes. Now they come out to the traffic. How are they going to be able to get through? There is Montoya going inside. Robbie Gordon into turn one. Right behind the both of them is Castroneves.
This is where the 1 mile oval gets very tight and demanding as the leaders start to pick their way through traffic. And that's something they'll be doing for the rest of the afternoon. And this is where perhaps somebody can gain an advantage. If the leader gets caught out a little bit by somebody moving over when he didn't expect it, the second or third place driver might be able to sneak through and take the place. Juan Montoya now coming up to lap Unser Jr. Now, Unser Jr. is back in the race. Remember, he suffered a bad accident in the season opener and broke his ankle. He's racing with a carbon fiber cast on his ankle, and that seems to be fine. He doesn't report any troubles in the car. The only troubles are with the car, which has not been performing at all well this weekend.
No, it hasn't. He's been struggling all weekend with that car, and he was fast in the morning warm-up, but you know, he's stuck there in line. He's sitting behind Scott Pruitt, and really there he pulls to the inside to try and essay to make a pass. It's not on at that stage, and he has to tuck back into line, and therefore behind him, so do Juan Montoya, and right behind Montoya there is Castroneves. Look at those two.
But look, oh, somebody's lost it, and it's one of the team grid. I think it's Frank, is it Tracy? Tracy has lost it coming, no it is, let's just check, it is Paul Tracy as they come down the pit straight. Paul Tracy's lost it. He was in third place, but he hasn't done any damage, and he's going down the pits lane to get back into the race. The course has gone yellow, no surprise there. The pits are closed for the moment, and it's very early in this race. Only 11 laps completed. It's unlikely we'll see anybody come in unless one or two at the back might decide to take advantage of it. We'll have to wait and see. Paul Tracy, this is the replay then, and that in fact is the same place that we've seen a number of cars getting into trouble this weekend.
That's the only place we've seen cars get into trouble, funnily enough, Ben. It's coming off that final corner there and up the hill there, up the slight incline towards the start-finish line. And good job there by Paul Tracy to keep it off the wall.
Juan Montoya leads after 12 of 225 laps here at Nazareth. Back to Eurosport's coverage of round 4 of the FedEx Championship Series. We're under yellows at the moment, but it won't be for much longer. Juan Montoya leads the field around behind the pace car. 15 laps have been completed. Castroneves in second place. Dario Franchitti in third. Mark Blundell in fourth. So 2 British drivers up there in the top 4. Then it's the Canadian, Patrick Carpentier, ahead of PJ Jones. Max Papis in 7th place. And PJ Jones and Max Papis leading the Ford contingent. Adrian Fernandez in 8th place. Greg Moore 9th. And Paul Tracy, after that spin, is in 10th place. In the pits, 1 or 2 cars have decided to come in. Oh, and Brian's got problems. Brian Herter in the pits, waving his arms, and he's lost drive by the look of it. This is what happened to Paul Tracy. Another view of Tracy getting into trouble. In fact, he was getting into trouble as he went through that shot, but we just sort of missed it. There he was, spinning on the inside, kept it to the inside, and did not back up into the wall, which is what we saw happen to Hattori and Michel Jourdain and Dennis Vitolo earlier on this weekend. So Paul Tracy survived. As I say, he's now emerged in 10th position in spite of that spin, and Jimmy Vasser in 11th place, one behind him. Here we go then, green flag racing, and Juan Montoya takes it back into the race as Helio Castroneves chases in second. Franchitti following on in third place, and Mark Blundell in fourth, as the rest of the field just trying to sort their positions out, and it gives Montoya a little bit of clean air now again. He's lapped one or two cars before this first yellow, and now he's got a chance for some clear air. Yeah,
the only car he actually lapped there was Unser Jr, or rather, he almost lapped I'm sorry, he did lap Robbie Gordon. Unser Jr was just able to stay on the lead lap, did make a pit stop under that yellow, so he has a little bit more fuel than the rest of these guys. Is at the back of the order. Tony Kanaan also came in, and Brian Herter, who had a problem in his pit stop, has lost a lap.
Yeah, he is back out there now. Herter has emerged onto the circuit, so all the cars still in this race at the moment. Montoya, Juan Pablo Montoya, the replacement of Alex Zanardi at Team Ganassi Racing. He has just been fabulous in this early part of the season. Tremendous performance, and Montoya leads. You're looking at PJ Jones in the silver and black car,
who has moved up to 5th place. He did get past Patrick Carponche at that restart. Carponche also lost a place to Max Papis. So PJ Jones now running in an excellent 5th place for Patrick Racing, and he, of course, is using the Swift chassis. His teammate Adrian Fernandez, the winner in Motegi, is running a Reynard chassis.
So PJ Jones going great guns here as he comes up behind Mark Blundell. He's the next man on his list to try and pick up another position. Somebody peeling off into pits, that's Tony Kanaan. Now Tony had already made a stop on that last yellow. He may have picked up some sort of penalty. Tony Kanaan coming into pit lane, and his pit box right down at the far end of the pit lane, almost opposite our commentary position in fact, and it looks as though he may have to make a quick stop again. So no luck for the man who led many of the laps at Long Beach. Tony Kanaan in the McDonald's car, and it looks as though they are actually dealing with the car. Are they switching the engine off, or is it just a stop and go penalty? We shall just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, on board with some of the other cars, Scott Pruitt, there he is, on board with him, the Pioneer sponsorship, and he's got the race leader right behind him, Juan Montoya bearing down on him, and this is to lap Scott Pruitt. Meanwhile, Helio Castroneves has got a chance to close up behind Montoya again. But we mentioned earlier on, Jeremy, we were talking ourselves before this race, that one of the watchwords for this weekend that's been employed more than by anybody, by Helio Castroneves, is patience. And just watching what Helio's been doing in these early laps, he has been very patient. He hasn't tried to put a move on Montoya yet.
That's true. He really does look to have a very fast car indeed. Each time we've gone green, Montoya has jumped out to a pretty substantial advantage right away. But Castroneves, in clean air, has been able to close that advantage down very rapidly indeed. But he's managed to persuade himself not to make a move until he sees a clear-cut opportunity. Castroneves, he's been saying all weekend, patience, patience, patience. I have to be patient. And he is doing that so far this afternoon. And he will be hoping for an opportunity like that, where Montoya is held up by the slower car there of Scott Pruitt, that he could be able to make a move. Well, not this time, but maybe his chance will come soon. We'll see.
That's right. Back on board with Scott Pruitt looking behind us to Juan Montoya's car. Let's just remind you about Juan Pablo Montoya. It's a new name, of course, to Champ Cars, but he comes with a tremendous pedigree. There is Tony Kanaan just coming back out of the pits after his problems. They had a problem with the pop-off valve, apparently, on that car. But just going back to Montoya, he comes in as the reigning Formula 3000 champion, winning the series last year with the Supernova team, taking 4 victories, and he had 7 pole positions last year. They're a remarkable qualifying performance. Before that, he was second in the Formula 3000 Championship in 1997. Before that, he raced in the British Formula 3 Championship. So a great pedigree. He was also test driver for the Williams Grand Prix team during last season. Picked up the drive with Ganassi, effectively picking up the drive that Alex Zanardi left when he went to join Williams, and now Montoya impressing everybody here in the United States.
What's interesting there is Mark Blundell, and right behind him P. Jones. That is a battle for 4th place, but what's interesting to me is Montoya cannot get past that car of Scott Pruitt. However, farther down the order, let me tell you, Michel Jourdain Jr. started back in 22nd place. He's passed 5 cars. He's up into 17th. He passed Mauricio Gugelmin a couple of laps ago, and is now up onto the tail of Alex Barron. Jourdain is making progress.
Good stuff from Michel Jourdain, the younger Mexican in the field, who has a great deal of support from his countrymen, from Mexican sponsors as well, and he's doing a good job here today. Meanwhile, we're watching this battle up front. There is Montoya at the back of this picture. There's Montoya with the white crash helmet. Helio Castroneves again getting a little chance. Castroneves, the Brazilian in the white and blue car of Hogan Racing, just playing it patiently and looking for any opportunity to move into the lead. Franchitti still 3rd, ahead of Blundell and PJ Jones.
This Sunday, the World Rally Championship goes to Corsica. And with so little between Mackin and Oriel and our man McRae, there's everything to race for. Burns has got to start shifting his Subaru, while Toyota are the team to beat. The World Rally Corsica Special, Sunday at 2, live on British Eurosport.
Ford. And Valvoline, driving the world.
Of the race from the Nazareth Speedway, round 4 of the FedEx Championship Series, and Juan Pablo Montoya in the Ganassi racing car, still stuck behind Unser Jr. Watch Helio Castroneves in 2nd, trying to go all the way round the outside at turn number 2. Montoya giving him room. The white car is Castroneves trying to take the lead, and he's done it. He goes right round the outside of Brian Herter at turn number 3. He's being lapped, and that was a perfectly judged move from the Brazilian. Helio Castroneves in the Hogan Lola has taken the lead of this race, and Montoya pushed back to 2nd.
People have been saying all weekend there is no way you can overtake him right now the outside of turn 2. Well, you can if you're Helio Castroneves, and apparently if you're in the Lola Mercedes chassis with the Firestone tyres. But there is Unser Jr. He has been holding off that car of Juan Montoya for so long. So let's see now if Helio Castroneves has any luck. Better luck getting past Unser Jr. Unser Jr. is so experienced. He doesn't particularly like this racetrack, but it is really the home race for Marlboro Team Penske. They're based just 50 miles away in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he does not want to go a lap down.
Helio Castroneves, we saw a little bit of the telemetry from on board the car. Speed's a little lower than in qualifying, where they were topping 190 miles an hour at this section of the track. Fastest part of the track, then the slowest part of the track coming up straight away, turn 3, down to about 130 miles an hour. Now then, Mark Blundell is in 4th place under pressure from PJ Jones. Jones in the silver and black car there, challenging Mark Blundell for position, and at the moment not quite finding a way through. In fact, Jones lost a little bit of pace just there. Behind Jones, Max Papis runs in 6th position, but only a couple of tenths behind, so Jones can't afford to do anything too risky here, because he's got the car of Max Papis bearing down on him behind. Good stuff through the field, and especially for Helio Castroneves, who now leads this race. Just looking at Robbie Gordon trying to make up some ground. He's a long way back though. Blundell in the familiar orange and blue colours there, the Pac West car, running a little aerodynamic tweak on the front of that car. You might get a glimpse of it from the onboard camera here. Just little fins on either side of the sharp pointed section of the nose cone, right at the very tip of the car. 2 little fins on either side. You can see them quite clearly there, but very small. Several of the teams this weekend experimenting with extra aerodynamic appendages to try and reclaim some of that lost downforce, but really it's a losing battle. They've lost 40% of the downforce of what they had here last year due to the rules requiring them to run what were called the speedway wing. So completely different ball game this weekend for these drivers, and they're still getting used to it in the early stages of this race. 45 laps have been completed, but it's a 2. Oh, we've got an accident at turn 3.
Unser Jr. Unser Jr. He was running right ahead of the race leaders, had been there pretty much since the beginning of the race almost. They came up behind him right away, and Unser Jr. heavily into the wall down there in turn 3. And although Unser was holding up the race leaders, he was really running at the same pace because the first and second place cars were pulling away from the third place cool machine of Dario Franchitti.
So Unser was running at a reasonable pace, but ironically, it's one of the most experienced drivers in the field who has suffered the first accident as such in this race. We saw Tracy spin earlier, but he didn't hit anything, and now we've seen Unser go off. So it's two of the most experienced Champ Car drivers in the field who've actually come to grief in this new format with the low downforce cars. And let's just hope that Unser is okay. Of course, remember, he's driving with a carbon fiber cast on his leg already, with that broken ankle suffered at not at Motegi, at Homestead earlier this year. So let's see if we can find out what happened. We've got some replays to look at here. Al just locked up.
Yeah, he did. You could see that brake locked up. You can see it, and there off he goes. He just left his brake in a fraction too late. And on this surface, or on this circuit, that's all it takes. Look at the right-hand side of the screen. There goes Unser, spearing heavily into that outside wall.
And remember, that's the fastest section of the track to the slowest. They are braking quite hard for turn 3, and they make a down change as well. They go down to 5th gear from 6th, and he went in too deep. In fact, Paul Tracy was talking about that yesterday in qualifying. He said he'd gone in too deep into turn 3. He didn't actually crash, but he did have a big moment into that corner because he went back to driving the car as it used to be with greater downforce. And perhaps little Al also just sort of switching back for a moment into being able to brake later with greater downforce. Good to see that he's able to climb out of the car in spite of his injuries. All weekend he's been getting to and from the car on crutches. Well, thankfully, it looks as though no greater damage to that broken ankle.
Yeah, that's always the danger in that sort of accident, that you might make the injury worse than it was. He's wearing a carbon fibre brace that goes all the way down his shin there, and there is Mark Blundell coming into the pits. Most of the leaders also into the pit lane. This is Helio Castroneves, the race leader.
Now, this is vital stuff. Can Hogan Racing compete with the best teams in the pit lane? Get away cleanly. Well, that looks like a good stop, but is it going to be enough to beat the best team, perhaps, in the pits, Ganassi Racing?
No, it's not. There goes Montoya out of our booth, ahead of Helio Castroneves.
So the Ganassi team does it again. How many times have we seen that in the past, that they just turn their cars around faster than anyone else? It's such a well-organized pit crew, so slick, and they've got Montoya out ahead of Castroneves. 52 laps have been completed at the Nazareth Speedway. We're looking back at action from earlier this year. This is what happened to Unser Jr. at round 1 of the championship. This was when he broke his ankle at Homestead. Now, this was on Thursday. You can see how he was hobbling around on crutches to get to and from his car, and this is what has just happened. If you've only just tuned in, just a few moments ago, Unser Jr. locked up that left front brake and went skating into the wall. Thankfully, he's out of the car. It doesn't look as though he's aggravated that injury any further, not from what we could see anyway. He got out of the car under his own steam. So that's good news, but obviously a bad day for Unser Jr. once again, and the Penske team, which is down to just the one car this year. Now then, let's take a quick look at our leaders to remind you. Juan Pablo Montoya leads in the Ganassi Racing, the Target-sponsored car. There he is, the colours we've become so familiar with over the last few years as they've taken the last 3 championships here. Jimmy Vasser in 96 and Alex Zanardi in 97 and 98, and they seem to have found themselves a brand new star. Second place, the white car with the blue side pods of Helio Castroneves, car number 9, the young Brazilian in his second season of Champ Car Racing. Third place, the familiar team green colours of Dario Franchitti, has running a consistent race so far, but not able to match the pace of the 2 leaders. And perhaps the star of the show so far, PJ Jones in 4th place in the Swift chassis. The Swift chassis being run by Patrick Racing on this occasion for Jones, but not for Adrian Fernandez, his teammate. Blundell in 5th place, Max Papis in 6th, and Jimmy Vasser in 7th. Now, there is sadness in the American motorsport community today, and as you can see, the flag flying at half-mast due to 3 deaths at Charlotte yesterday amongst the crowd as 3 people were killed in the IRL race. 2 cars hit the wall and suspension went over the fence into the grandstand. So a day of sadness here in the United States. The motorsport community very saddened by that, and obviously our thoughts are with the families of those concerned. A good crowd gathered here for this race, however, today, and ideal conditions as Montoya continues to lead them round. Picture perfect, absolutely, Ben. It has been so all weekend, hardly a cloud to be seen. There's a few wispy little clouds there to the south on the horizon, but overhead, nice, bright, clear blue sky. Boy, what a pleasant change that is from 1 year ago. It was raining on and off all weekend. The whole race had to be postponed to the Monday. It was bitterly cold, thoroughly miserable weekend all around, really. But there is Patrick Carpentier back into the pits. He had a slow first pit stop, because he fell from 7th place before those stops to 13th thereafter. He now makes another pit stop and will fall to the tail end of the cars on the lead lap. That'll put him back in 19th place. So not a good day for Patrick Carpentier. Meanwhile, Montoya continues to lead them round. Very inexperienced, of course, of this situation. His first oval race was at Homestead at the beginning of this season, but this is a very different type of oval track, much tighter, much smaller, only 1 mile in length, remember, and it really, these laps taking place in around 20 seconds when they're up to full speed. It's just amazing to see how quickly they come round. You stand by the side of the track, you watch them come past, and next moment they seem to be coming past again. It's very, very rapid indeed. Astonishing place. And you think that last year the average speed for the pole sitter was 184 miles an hour. 12 miles an hour, the reduction since last year. Montoya continues to lead the cars behind the pace car then. 56 laps completed, 169 laps to go. Patrick Carpentier has joined at the back of the field, having just been into the pits a moment ago. And the clear-up operation continues for Unser Jr.'s accident. It looks as though they've got most of it cleared up at the top end of the track there, and I think we should be going green fairly soon. Also into the pits again at just a couple of laps ago was Gilles de Ferran, so he too is towards the back of the pack. De Ferran in 18th, there he is, and Carpentier in 19th place. There's a view of Jimmy Vasser there, holding on to 7th. And Paul Tracy slightly further down the field in 13th position at the moment. There is Gilles de Ferran, he's right at the back. Yeah, you talked about Paul Tracy there, Paul, just before we went green. He was dropping back through the field, so he's struggling as Paul Tracy. So, Montoya, Helio Castroneves, Dario Franchitti, PJ Jones, Mark Blundell. You're looking at the field summary. Unser Jr. has been released from the medical centre. We're getting ready to go green once again. Montoya begins to pick up the pace. Took the lead on the pit stops under that yellow flag, and it's Montoya across the line from Helio Castroneves and Dario Franchitti, the top 3 places. But watch out for PJ Jones, who's now in 4th position. The fastest car, one of the fastest cars on the circuit so far this afternoon, and PJ Jones is flying. Best ever performance from him. He spent several seasons working at Dan Gurney's team, All-American Racers, with what is basically uncompetitive machinery, and now Jones has got hold of a car that he's enjoying, that is competitive, and he's running up front for the first time. Meanwhile, there's the battle between Mark Blundell and Max Papis. Blundell running in 5th position, Max Papis in 6th, and then there's a little bit of a gap back to Jimmy Vasser, but watch out for Vasser, now in 7th place, and just picking off places one by one, partly in the pits and partly on the track. So, can Papis find a way past Blundell? 2 European drivers doing battle here, both with Formula 1 experience, Grand Prix experience. Of course, Mark Blundell with more extensive Grand Prix driving experience. Max Papis did some Grand Prix for the footwork team. Wasn't a particularly happy time for him, and he really now is relishing the challenge of running in a top team in the American Series. Meanwhile, a quick look back at our leaders. Montoya's pulled out a little bit of a gap from Helio Castroneves. Lapping at around the 21.7-second mark last time around, the 21.7 again there from Juan Montoya. And Helio Castroneves perhaps just taking it easy in second place again, being patient, not doing anything silly, perhaps trying to look after the tyres in the early part of this second stint.
Very good point, Ben. The tyre wear certainly is a factor on this racetrack, and I think after the test here about a month ago, Firestone went away and came back this weekend with a slightly softer tyre. Usually at this racetrack, this time of year, it's pretty cool. Here's Unser Jr.
What happened down there in turn 3?
Oh, I just got in a little bit too hot. My front end was going away really bad, and it was just like I didn't have any rear brakes. The fronts just locked on me, and then I got up in the gray, and it just went away.
Track conditions themselves, because you were pretty much able to stay on the lead lap there, running with the leaders.
Yeah, track conditions are good. I mean, we just, we weren't running with the leaders, but they could lap me pretty quick, but then I could hold them up pretty good. And so, it's single file out there. You can't really do a lot of passing out there, but, it was basically good. I want to say hi to my Cody and little Alan, Joe, and Shannon.
Well, the good news is, thankfully, the injuries were not aggravated. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Unser Jr. then out of this race, first true retirement from this race. Another car still in there. Tony Kanaan, meanwhile, is back in the pits. He's some 16 laps down now, Tony Kanaan, so I wonder how much longer his afternoon will go on. On board with Michael Andretti. Let's just go quiet a moment and let's listen up to the onboard and the engine sounds from Andretti's car. View of Michael Andretti chasing Greg Moore, the championship leader. Moore down in 9th position at the moment. Surprising perhaps to see him so far down the order. Narrowly leading this championship by 6 points coming into this race. And again, you can see Michael Andretti trying to get a bit of momentum here. He might have an opportunity to get past Greg Moore into turn 1. No, not quite. This flat out as it used to be left-hander turn 1 is now no longer flat out. They've got to give a little ease off the throttle to get through there safely, and Michael Andretti couldn't quite make that work. Now then, Tony Kanaan has withdrawn from this race. I told you he was a long way down. He's in the pit lane, and it looks as though it is all over for the Brazilian who led in Long Beach so comprehensively for so much of the race until he made that one mistake that saw him hit the wall and hand the lead over to Juan Montoya. Hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from Tony Kanaan in just a moment as he becomes the second retirement. Meanwhile, we're still just keeping an eye on this battle between Greg Moore and Michael Andretti. Let's hear from Tony Kanaan.
You know you had boost problems, then it got worse. Tell us what happened, Tony.
I tell you, Gary, what a long day, what a long weekend. But yeah, we had a boost problem since the first lap after the start, and but we are trying to fix it, to try to learn a little bit. We went down like 15 laps or something like that, but I was still trying to make my car work for the next races, and suddenly my throttle got stuck in the restart. Then Steve decided to quit. I think it was a good move, but the bad luck is gone now. So we're like Long Beach, Nazareth. So we're going to Rio to have fun and have a good time.
You gotta love this guy because he's always got a smile. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Always positive, Tony Kanaan, and a competitive driver. Could be very strong indeed at Rio, the next round of the championship, where they go to Brazil, his home track. But let's just watch this battle up front again, Jeremy.
And looking there at the order on the top of the screen there, look at there, 13th position, Michel Jourdain Jr. He passed Paul Tracy a couple of laps ago. Boy, that young Mexican is having a superb drive for Peyton Coyne Racing here this afternoon. But here we are, back with the race leaders. There is Helio Castroneves, right ahead of him is Juan Montoya.
It's good, isn't it, to see these two absolutely together throughout the course of this race so far. And again, Castroneves is putting himself into position. If Juan Montoya gets a little held up by one of the back markers, then there's an opportunity for him to sneak through. Now, what's going on up here? Max Papis diving to the inside. No, it was De Ferran, in fact, of Maurizio Gugelmin. So De Ferran find a place, but look at that, Montoya's been held up.
Yeah, and Brian Herter, that was also going slow there in the middle. Herter had just come out of the pits. He just made a pit stop and was trying to get back up to speed, and he held up that whole group of cars, enabled Gilles De Ferran there in the picture to get past Mauricio Gugelmin. That was for 16th place. And farther back there is Patrick Carpentier. Behind Carpentier, who has had a problem, is the leader, Juan Montoya, and there in his wheel tracks, or 3 or 4 car lengths behind, is Helio Castroneves looking again for that opportunity. Meanwhile, the 3rd place car of Dario Franchitti is now some 4 seconds behind.
Again, Castroneves closes up in turn 2. That was where he made his move last time, around the outside of turn 2. A very impressive pass it was, but back to 2nd place after the first pit stops. They just weren't quite fast enough in the pit lane. Great to see 2 young drivers, however, really featuring in this race. Juan Montoya, the star of Long Beach, and Helio Castroneves, just 22 years old, nearly 23, his birthday coming up in a few weeks' time. But Castroneves driving tremendously. We have seen him run near the front in the past. Last year he had a particularly good run at Milwaukee when he finished in 2nd place. He seems to go well on the ovals, and he's been going well all weekend. He was fastest in every session up until Saturday morning when Montoya pipped him. Montoya pipped him by just 1/1000th of a second in qualifying, but there seems to be very little to choose between these two in the race. And again, the white car of Castroneves gets that little bit closer to the back of Juan Montoya. All about reading the traffic at the moment. And again, you can see how the leaders, although they're capable of going much faster, they cannot get past these slower cars. They're in the turbulent wake of the slower cars. They lose any of that valuable downforce that they don't have much of anyway, and they just cannot find a way past.
That's right then, and they're lapping pretty consistently, around about 22.2 to 22.5 seconds. On their own, they can run about almost a second quicker. They've been running 21.6s, 21.7s on their own, but in traffic, when they're behind slower cars, they lose about 1/2 of a second. And when the car in front of you is only a 1/2 a second slower than you are, on this sort of a racetrack, with this wing configuration in particular, it is almost impossible to overtake.
Well, Gilles De Ferran has found himself in 16th position now. Gugelmin's 17th place, then Carpentier in 18th, and then Juan Montoya. But he's playing it patiently as well, not taking too many gambles. But Castroneves had a run there because Montoya lost a bit of pace through turn number 3. He got a little bit too close to the back of Carpentier's car, but Castroneves not able to capitalize on it this time. So again, he just settles into position, able to run that wide line through turn number 2. And there we're taking a look at the telemetry. Acceleration and braking, with the top speed being shown on the right. Acceleration hard out of turn 3, building up to speed, and then slowing it down a bit down here for turn number 2. So interesting to watch the telemetry there, although I'm surprised the acceleration bar doesn't go a bit further up. There you can see a bit of braking into turn 3. Should be hard on it here at this point. The acceleration should be flat out. Then they ease off a bit for turn 1. Oh, trying to find a way past Brian Herter,
who again has just made another pit stop. He has been struggling all day long. He came out of the pits there, and on cold tyres, with this lack of downforce once again, it's so difficult to get those tyres up to temperature quickly. And Juan Montoya, they did a good job to get past Herter and maintain that lead. We've got 85 laps in the books, 86 as they come past this time.
So 139 laps to go here. Montoya already leading most of the laps so far this afternoon, but still got to go a bit further before he can think about adding another point to his tally. Already taken the point for pole position, but Castroneves is right there with him, shadowing his every move. Tremendous stuff. And remember, let's just remind you once more, I know we keep talking about it, but that 2nd place car, the white car, is a Lola chassis, built in the UK like the Reynard, but a company that has gone through a lot of changes in recent years, taken over by the Irishman Martin Bahrain a couple of years ago, and he really has invested the money and the work into the Lola manufacturer that's turned it around. They've now got a car that is really working well on the ovals, and Helio Castroneves is delighted.
Absolutely, and Michel Jourdain Jr., the other Lola in the field, we said he started 22nd, up to 13th at the moment, and trying to track down Christian Fittipaldi in the Swift ahead of him. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti 4.2 seconds behind. There is Christian Fittipaldi, who has in fact just got past Cristiano Di matter there in the Toyota, and behind him now will be Michel Jourdain Jr.
So Fittipaldi picked up 11th position there, and behind him D'Amato in 12th, and then Jourdain in 13th place. So battles there for final points. Remember, points go all the way down to 12th place in the Champ Car Series. Robbie Gordon in the orange and blue car moving out of the way of some of the faster cars. And meanwhile, the gap up front remains much the same between Montoya and Castroneves. It's just half a second. In the pits, Brian Herter has retired now. They're wheeling his car past our commentary position here, and that's the end of the day for one of the Team Rahal cars. Look at this gaggle of cars trying to come across start-finish line together. Absolutely together, and the leader's right in the middle of it. There he is. Montoya has finally found a way past Carpentier, and he's got past Gugelmin, and now he's trying to get past Robbie Gordon, but Gordon gets well out of the way. In fact, Gordon coming into the pits.
Great stuff going on here, and a little bit farther down the back we just see there is Carpentier, the player's car on the inside there. He is in trouble, and his teammate Greg Moore also is struggling at the moment. He's lost a couple of positions in the last 2 laps, so he has fallen behind both Michael Andretti and now Christian Fittipaldi.
Well, we mentioned Brian Herter out of the race. You're just seeing Helio Castroneves trying to get past
Brian Herter
one of the other cars. Let's hear from Herter now.
Very disappointing. I guess you wanted to stay out there, but it wasn't working today.
Well, yeah, we tried. We couldn't seem to figure out what exactly happened. I mean, right from the start, the car was bottoming on the ground really hard, and it was really loose. The back end was sliding all over the place. And the weight jacker, the thing we use at the front of the car to move weight back and forth, was broken. So I think that may be the problem. We tried to fix it on a couple of pit stops, making some big adjustments. We couldn't make it drivable, and you know, it kills me because these guys work so hard to you know, have to take a race car off the track. But you know, I was going to get in somebody's way out there and collect somebody who was having a good day, and that wasn't going to be fair to anybody.
Thank you, Brian. Jan?
So Brian Herter out of the race, adds to our list of retirements. Unser Jr, Tony Kanaan and Brian Herter, the 3 out of the race so far. So Robbie Gordon here still struggling round, but he's some 4 laps down. They do seem to be fighting something there.
And meanwhile here, there is the car of, was that, I think that's the car of Gilles de Ferran in trouble there and falling back a little bit.
ESPN. Juan Montoya leads after 101 laps from Helio Castroneves, but now in 3rd position, it's PJ Jones. Jones having the best run of his Champ Car racing career, overtook Dario Franchitti. Franchitti back to 4th place. PJ Jones in the Swift chassis, absolutely brilliant. There it was, getting past going into turn 1, and made it look very, very easy. Must have had a great exit out of turn 3, and PJ Jones up now into 3rd place.
Great drive by PJ Jones, brought into the Vistion car this year by Pat Patrick in place of Scott Pruitt, who chose to switch across to Arturo Wells and the slowly improving Toyota engine. How are they faring right now? Well, Scott Pruitt is 2 laps down in 19th position, and there is PJ Jones. Well, there is not PJ Jones, but PJ Jones, trust me, is in 3rd place, just over 4 seconds behind the 2nd place car of Helio Castroneves. And there you see the 2 leaders, Montoya on the right, Castroneves behind him, and they're both trying to get past the 18th place, the 16th place car of Gilles de Ferran, the last car on the lead lap. There they come out of turn 2, down the hill into turn 3. Castroneves to the inside. That's not on.
Not quite, but he's getting closer and closer again, and looking for that chance to nip past in traffic. He used it before very wisely and went round the outside at turn 2. So far, he's just taking things carefully and looking for any opportunity that's really handed to him on a plate. Then he's going to take it, but he's not going to take any risks by the looks of things at this point. We're still got over halfway to go in this race. We're about a little bit more way laps from the half distance point, and then he can really start to charge perhaps in the latter stages. Gilles de Ferran at the front of this group in the Walker Racing machine, the Valvoline car. Well, he's been struggling this weekend. on the Goodyear tyres, of course. He's in 16th position. In fact, he's behind the other car on Goodyear tyres, Alex Barron. And that's a good run, alternatively, for Alex Barron, because normally he's at the back of the field. And this weekend, they seem to have got the Eagle chassis of Dan Gurney running quite reasonably well. 15th place for Barron.
Some good drives here by a bunch of lesser-known drivers, and Cristiano D'Amato, the rookie, he's up into 12th place. The other rookie, of course, is Juan Montoya. But here we are on board now with Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti is in 9th place. Right ahead of him there is Adrian Fernandez. Michael, you got a good run coming out of turn 2, but he's not close enough to make that move in turn 3. Uphill again now, past the start-finish line, up into 6th gear for Michael Andretti, into that kink there in turn 1. And you can hear Michael there lifting off the throttle. In years past with the big wings, absolutely no problem to go around there flat out. No longer.
No way to do it now flat out. He's got Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate, in position behind him. So you're looking at Fernandez 8th, Andretti 9th, and Fittipaldi 10th position. Interesting battle going on here. Remember, Michael Andretti led much of this race last year, and in fact he's a twice winner of this race at Nazareth, just a few miles from where he lives. But last year he threw it away on one of the restarts. He was comfortably in front and lost it coming out of this corner, in fact, on one of the restarts, and backed it into the wall. That was a big mistake on Michael's part, and no way for him to have a good day on that occasion. Right now, though, behind Adrian Fernandez, Michael Andretti running in 9th place.
Behind him is teammate there, Christian Fittipaldi, once more on board with Michael Andretti. He's shifting at both ends of the track. That's interesting. Shifting up into 6th, coming down the hill, down into 5th again for turn 3. Uphill again now, accelerating past the start-finish line. Just flashed past on the right-hand side. Through turn 1 here for Michael Andretti. And again, downshifting there into turn 2, up over the crest of the hill here. Long time before he gets back on the throttle. Again, last year with the big wings, that was, well, flat out in qualifying, certainly. Probably not so in race conditions, but nothing like as much brake or downshifting as they are doing this year. Pretty interesting changes.
The drivers having to work hard for their living on this track nowadays with less downforce from the cars, and Michael Andretti working that swift chassis of the Newman Haas team to its limit in his chase of Adrian Fernandez. Meanwhile, as we enjoy that on-board ride with Michael Andretti, let's look at the battle for 5th place. Marc Blundell, but behind him, he's got Maurizio Guzman, who's a long way down. He doesn't feature. He's down in 18th place. The next one on track that he's got to worry about is Max Papis. So, in fact, there's quite a big gap. Papis is in the white and blue car, the Miller Lite machine, formerly driven by Bobby Rahal. And Blundell in a fairly comfortable 5th place. Good run this for Blundell, for the Pac West team. Good confidence-boosting run. And he said yesterday, in fact, that his main aim was to get a decent finish in today. He wasn't going out there with great high hopes of winning, but he did want to get a good, consistent run for the morale of the team as well as for himself.
Yeah, that's very true, Ben. And he has been consistent all weekend, always up amongst the top 4 or 5. A very good weekend for Marc Blundell and the Motorola Pac West team.
Juan Montoya leads. We're just over half distance now with Castroneves 2nd and PJ Jones 3rd. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage here from the Nazareth Speedway, and it's still nip and tuck in the battle for the lead between Montoya and Castroneves. The top 2 remain the same, but behind them PJ Jones is getting closer and closer. From 3rd place, it's Montoya, Castroneves, and then PJ Jones. And if you watch closely, you'll see the silver and black car in the same shot. Not quite yet. There's 2nd place man, the Hogan racing car of Helio Castroneves. And there, at the top of the picture, is PJ Jones, the silver and black car with the orange striping. That's Jones.
And between them, him and the 2 leaders there is Patrick Carponche, who has been keeping pace as the 2 leaders are stuck there behind Gilles de Ferran and Alex Barron. They're all running the same sort of lap times, and the lap times they're running now is high 22s, 22.9 the last time around. So the pace has dropped away from what they were running 20 laps ago, which was low 22 second lap. So that's pretty interesting. The tyres are getting a little bit worn. We're a long way into this stint now. They came into the pits on lap 49, and we've now done 122, so 70 laps under green, and the tyres are beginning to wear, and we'll be looking at pit stops before too long.
That's right, Jeremy. That could be absolutely critical in the jostle for position, is how quick they can be turned around in the pits. We saw the change earlier. That was how Montoya got back into the lead. Well, can he hold on to that lead in the pits? Again, Castroneves closes down into turn number 2. Very close again, but not perhaps close enough to launch an attack. Meanwhile, Jones continues to close up that gap. PJ Jones, the eldest son of the 1963 Indy 500 winner, Parnelli Jones, a famous name in American motorsport. And PJ's career, well, it's gone through some ups and downs. Look at this, Castroneves tucked right in behind Montoya again. And again, he doesn't take that move that he tried earlier on in the race and go around the outside at turn 2, but he was ever so close to the back of the Ganassi car. PJ Jones goes through picture. There's Franchitti in 4th, and he's got to watch out now because Mark Blundell is closing up behind the Team Green car. So perhaps Franchitti's tyres going off a little bit more on that car. I talked to him earlier this weekend, and that was very much the case for him in Long Beach when he couldn't match the performance of Juan Montoya. He says they still haven't quite got the handling of the car to be consistent on a longer stint. They tend to get too much oversteer, and that was his concern in Long Beach. And it looks here as though, again, perhaps in the latter part of the stint before they're due to change tyres, the car's handling not quite so sharp, not quite so crisp for the Scotsman. Still, he stays ahead of Mark Blundell in 5th place, Papis then in 6th place, but Maurizio Gugelmin is between Blundell and Papis at the moment. Mark Blundell running with the Reynard chassis, Mercedes Ilmor engine power and Firestone tyres. Here's a chance to look at the speeds around this track. Dropping down a bit into turn 2 at around 140 miles an hour, just over at the apex there. Now, this is the fastest part of the track. Watch that graph to come up. It popped up to about 185 there, then it goes down to about 130 through turn 3, and then they're back onto the start-finish straight. That's how long it takes to do one lap of the Nazareth Speedway. Doesn't take very long at all.
It doesn't, does it, Ben? 22.7 last time around, and that is what that is the pace that these 4 cars are doing there at the front of the field. And I say at the front of the field, I think it also includes the last 2 cars that are on the lead lap. Those being Alex Barron in 15th place, Gilles de Ferran in 17th place. Right behind them, the 2 race leaders, Juan Montoya and Helio Castroneves. And there we are looking again at Mark Blundell. Right behind, right ahead of him is Dario Franchitti. There is the green and white car, Dario Franchitti. The lap car in front of Franchitti is Robbie Gordon, who is a couple of laps down. And there is the battle. That is the battle for 4th position. On board now, though, with Jimmy Vasser, who is running 7th. And Vasser, he's running a pretty lonely race at the moment. He's about a second or so behind Max Papis and a similar distance ahead of Adrian Fernandez.
Jimmy Vasser, last year's race winner here at Nazareth. He led home a 1-2 for Ganassi Racing. Let's just go quiet and listen to his onboard for a moment. Turn 2, you can really hear the pause as the driver waits to get back on the power through turn number 2. Coming up behind a car that must have just been in the pits, I think, a fairly slow-moving car.
Yeah, in actual fact, it's Michel Jourdain Jr., and he is forced to cede way there to Jimmy Vasser. And Michel slides wide there. You know, it's tough, as I said earlier on, when you come out of the pits, it's tough to get the tyres up to temperature because you don't have the downforce that the cars had before at this racetrack. And Jourdain rejoins the race now. He's in actual fact 2 laps down to the race leader. That's how much time you lose when you make even a scheduled pit stop on this tight bull ring.
So there have been only 2 leaders in this race, Juan Montoya and Helio Castroneves. Montoya's led most of it. Castroneves got in front a little bit before the first round of pit stops, looked very comfortable in front, but then lost that little bit of time in the pit lane. The Hogan Racing crew, not quite the well-drilled crew that Chip Ganassi has trained over the last few years. They're used to running under pressure, and no mistakes from the Ganassi team once again. So many times they've serviced Alex Zanardi well, and it worked well for Montoya. But look at this again, traffic might give Montoya a bit of a problem from Castroneves. Castroneves again closing right in behind the red car. but it's not quite enough. And again, Castroneves has to settle back in second. I think, again, that he's not prepared to take any big risks at this point. He's running competitively. He doesn't need to do anything silly with still another pit stop to go.
Absolutely right, Ben. You know, he's had disappointments in all of the races so far this year. He's been fast in every single one. He set the fastest lap of the race at Motegi. He set second fastest race lap at the first race in Homestead. Third fastest race lap in Long Beach. The car is quick, but he doesn't have the results set this year. He wants to put Carl Hogan's team on the podium. That is his primary goal this afternoon. Win the race, that'll be fantastic. But the primary goal, finish the race, get a good podium finish, get some points on the board.
Remember, Carl Hogan was the man that gave Dario Franchitti his first opportunity in Champ Car racing. Dario Franchitti's first season was with Hogan before he moved to Team Green. Last year it was JJ Leto in that car. Now, into the pits comes Jimmy Vasser from 7th place, and this will be the start of all of the leaders beginning to make their pit stops. Montoya, our race leader, teammate to Jimmy Vasser, due to come in within the next few laps. Oh, they got the starter ready just in case he stalls it, but I think a little bit of a delay. A lot of fuel to go on board.
Yeah, but that's certainly a long pit stop there. They didn't get that right at all. 17.4 seconds. They've lost a good 5 or 6 seconds. Their first pit stop for Target Chip Ganassi was superb. Jimmy Vasser made up 3 positions in the pits, but he'll lose a bunch more than that this time around, Ben.
Yeah, it didn't work out that time for the Ganassi crew, did it? Well, they'll just have to see if they can do better for Montoya.
Meantime, Mark Blundell also is in the pits, and Mark Blundell last time around was passed by Max Papis. He got held up by another car, I think, coming off turn 4 as they came into argue into turn 1, and there they go past. Finally, he gets past Gilles de Ferran. That is one Montoya, puts the lap car between himself and Helio Castroneves, and right behind Helio Castroneves is PJ Jones.
PJ Jones in 3rd place. De Ferran moves out of the way, but watch PJ Jones going for 2nd place, or trying to. He had to think about it, and it was a good opportunity because both of them had been a little held up by Gilles de Ferran. Wise driving from PJ though. He decided to have a go when it wasn't quite on. He backed out of it, and he remains in 3rd place. His best ever run in his career, and tremendous performance. His 4th season this is in Champ Cars, but the last few seasons have been with All-American racers and a car that has not been truly competitive. Now that he's got this Swift chassis beneath him, he's feeling very, very confident. Now then, look at this. Another chance for Castroneves. Oh, then it's Blundell trying to get up to speed. And Castroneves has got out the inside, and he's taken the lead from Montoya. Great. He snatched the advantage there, and they still got to make pit stops. Oh, and Helio just defending the inside, and Jones has got round the outside into 2nd place.
Fantastic stuff, and they wheel, bang, bang, wheels there. PJ Jones and Montoya. Montoya tries to dive down the inside of Beresford, and PJ Jones has lost it.
Jones, who moved up in a second, has lost control, and he's going to go yellow, and that brings out the yellow flag. He's trying to get going on PJ. PJ, you were going so well, and he gets back on the track. The safety crews do go out on track though, just in case there's any debris. They throw the yellow as soon as there's a problem on these kind of tracks. Now, what this will do is set us up for a tremendous battle in the pit lane now. They are due to make their stops, and we will see the other leaders coming into their pits to make their stops. It hasn't helped Mark Blundell a great deal because, of course, he's only just made his stop.
No, it's killed Mark Blundell's chances in this race because he made that stop. He is now 2 laps down, and these other guys can make their pit stops under green. He'll gain one of those laps back when the leaders do come in for their pit stop. But bad luck there by Mark Blundell, and again, great strategy by the race leaders. They were able to run their fuel length window longer than everybody else, and here is that move there. There is Jones and Montoya, and they touch wheels there, and too late on the brakes. There is PJ Jones, and around the car goes. He did a good job actually to keep it off the wall.
That was amazing, wasn't it? And whether they actually touched wheels, it was hard to see whether there was actually contact. There nearly was. Great racing. Here we have another look at it again. Red car, Montoya, remember, there, and coming through. This was when Helio got past. Helio went down the inside. You saw how wide Montoya went. Helio got up the inside. Good piece of driving. And then, of course, PJ got a good run on Montoya coming out of turn number 2. Montoya was actually quite quick, had a little look at getting down the inside of Helio, couldn't do it, and PJ went right round the outside of him at turn number 3. But here we go. This is the critical pit battle now of this race. Hogan Racing versus Ganassi. The pressure is on these Hogan boys.
Certainly is, and this crew led by Simon Morley, a former Formula One mechanic, and the crew they were doing their very best. Helio Castroneves, a little bit of impatience there, and that will cost a couple of vital seconds.
Yes, and look at that behind him. Another car was coming out at the same time as Montoya gets away cleanly. Good stop from Montoya. He gets out in front of Helio Castroneves, and in fact, Alex Barron's car has got out between them. Now, Barron was further down the order in 12th position, but interesting, there's a car between them now as they come out of the pits.
Absolutely right, and Alex Barron there, he'd worked so hard to stay on the lead lap before that pit stop, and tremendous work there by the target Chip Ganassi crew. Once again gets Montoya out into the lead.
Great stuff. Helio Castroneves has twice taken the lead in this race, and twice the Ganassi crew have got Montoya back in front. We have 76 laps to go. There won't be any more pit stops to make. It'll be a run to the flag from here. So the cars just making their way around behind the pace car. What excitement, what a fantastic bit of racing we saw leading up into that pit stop. The battle up front with Castroneves finally getting past Montoya after so many laps of shadowing him. Then PJ Jones getting in on the battle as well, getting himself into second, then spinning it, losing a lot of places, and then having to come in to make his stop. And so this is setting up wonderfully for a true exciting climax to this 4th round of the FedEx Championship Series. Two youngsters up front, Montoya and Castroneves. PJ Jones still up there in spite of that spin. He's still going to feature up there with the leaders.
And all those drivers that made pit stops before this caution came out have lost valuable ground. They're all one lap down or more. Dario Franchitti is amongst them. Mark Blundell is amongst them. Greg Moore, well, he'd been struggling a little bit in any case. Michael Andretti also lost a lap, as did his Newman Haas teammate, Christian Fittipaldi. They are running in 9th and 10th places.
Well, let's just see. Yes, Dario Franchitti lost a lot of
in actual fact, there's two Newman Haas cars. They just got out ahead of the race leader when they made those pit stops, but they all are in line behind the pace car. Before we go green, they will be waved past the pace car. What happens when the yellow comes out in this situation, the pace car will pick up the race leader, but when the race leader comes into the pits, the whole pack gets shuffled, and there were several cars who were in the pits as the yellow came out. The two Newman Haas cars were among them. So when they came back out onto the track, they came out behind the pace car. But now they are being waved past the pace car to take up their rightful position, so that the overall race leader, Juan Montoya, will be ahead of the pack at the restart. Behind Montoya will be that lap car of Alex Barron, and then the second place machine of poor old Helio Castroneves.
Back to second again. Great overhead shots here off the track. On the right, you can just see turn 3 leading down to start, finish straight. There is PJ Jones. He's still in 3rd place somehow. Remarkably, he's stayed in 3rd because, of course, it went yellow. This is a replay again. This was Castroneves going up the inside and taking the lead from Montoya, who nearly cut him up, but just decided in the end to give him space. Then, of course, they had the run up towards turn number 3, and Montoya actually was going quickly here. He had a run on Castroneves. Castroneves went to the inside, which was fine, but PJ Jones had a clear run round the outside, and so he just drove right round the outside of Juan Montoya through turn number 3. As they came out of the corner, though, Montoya was hard on the power. PJ Jones lost it by just going into the kink a little too fast and dropping back, but he's still in 3rd place, PJ Jones. He's still hanging in there. Paul Tracy is in 4th place, by the way, but Dario Franchitti, a big-time loser in that last little switch around. We're getting ready for the restart as Juan Montoya leads them. It's Helio Castroneves in second. Look at Tracy, though. He's looking particularly aggressive for this restart, isn't he? The green and white car of the Canadian, Paul Tracy, a twice winner at this track. Away they go, green flag, and everybody getting a bit held up there. And Castroneves has got himself held up quite badly. And in fact, PJ Jones has got up into second.
Yeah, I think Helio was taken unawares by the green flag. He didn't seem to know that it was coming up, and PJ Jones flies past, and now Helio Castroneves has to dive to the inside into turn 3 to block Paul Tracy, who tries the outside. Ooh, no, can't do that. Has to tuck in behind. So Helio Castroneves now back into third place. PJ Jones in second.
So Helio Castroneves getting completely left behind there. Don't know what he was thinking about. Perhaps, as you say, he didn't realize the restart was coming. He just got left behind. Meanwhile, PJ Jones is trying to get past the lapped car of Alex Barron, and this is all giving Montoya a chance to escape a little bit in clean air. This could be the critical phase of the race, because if he can just get away in clean air here, it might take Helio Castroneves too long to deal with traffic, even if he has got a faster car, to then be able to close up to Montoya. Absolutely crucial restart, and Helio Castroneves got it all wrong.
Very strange. I don't know whether maybe his radio communication isn't working too well. There is on the left-hand side of the screen the white car of Alex Barron. Right behind him is PJ Jones. And in this situation, you know, Alex Barron is one lap down. He is 11th place. He doesn't want to lose ground, but at the same time, he must realize that he is pretty much ruining this race for the rest of us. And if he could just see it in himself to let that second place car pass, it would certainly be good for us on the spectator side of things. But Alex Barron, he's run a pretty good pace all race long. He's not running the same pace as the race leaders, but he has been running well. He stayed on the lead lap for an awful long time. Just right before that yellow did he go a lap down.
Cristiano D'Amata's going well.
Yes,
he was right behind Paul Tracy there in the blue car. D'Amata running in 5th place now. That's the top Toyota-powered car. An excellent performance. So D'Amata, watch out for him. Cristiano has won 2 Indy Lights races here at Nazareth in the past. Moved up to Champ Cars this year, and now he's beginning to apply some pressure. There he is, the second of these cars, the blue and orange car, the young Brazilian. Another young Brazilian, Cristiano D'Amata. Now, PJ Jones, there he is. Started 8th, worked his way up gradually in this race to be in 2nd position now, but look behind him. Helio Castroneves has picked up the pace again. He's got heat into the tyres once more, and now he's beginning to go more quickly. But from being patient earlier on, he now has to get on with it, because Juan Montoya has opened up a 5-second advantage over these two. That's the biggest lead we've seen in this race by a long way. 5 seconds advantage for Juan Montoya, and Helio Castroneves in 3rd place has to deal with PJ Jones quickly. There are 64 laps to go.
This is a critical time in the race for Helio Castroneves. He's got to be frustrated to lose that 2nd place, not to mention the lead, of course. And now he's running 3rd. It still would be a great finish for Helio Castroneves and the Hogan Racing team. He has to be careful not to throw even 3rd place away. There's still 63 laps to go in this race. There's plenty of time for traffic to make a difference or whatever else to come in to play their role in this race. And he is running there in 3rd place. He's not running too close behind the 2nd place car, and behind them in 4th place is Paul Tracy. There is Paul Tracy. Around turn 2, gets awfully wide there in turn 2, loses a lot of speed off the corner, and that allows Cristiano D'Amata to move in. But Tracy was well offline in turn 2 there, Ben.
Yeah, he really struggled to keep it together, didn't he? But somehow he managed to save it using all of his reactions and all his experience. He's lapped over this oval track well over 10,000 miles of testing in his days as a Penske test driver. This their principal test track for much of the year, and Tracy knows it probably better than anybody. Meanwhile, his teammate Dario Franchitti finds himself down in 9th place after that kerfuffle on the last round of pit stops. It all went a bit wrong for Franchitti, likewise for Blundell because he came in early. Mark Blundell, who's been running competitively in the top 5 all day, well, he's way down in 16th now.
Yeah, that's a travesty for poor old Mark Blundell. He really doesn't deserve that. That was just the luck of the pit stops. Plus, of course, that little kerfuffle up there in turn 2, where Helio Castroneves briefly took the lead. But there is Juan Montoya ahead of him. Is Dario Franchitti, as you said, in 9th place and struggling to stay on the lead lap.
Juan Montoya leads then, PJ Jones 2nd, Castroneves is 3rd, 59 laps to go. Castroneves has spun away that hard-earned third place. What a disappointment for the Brazilian. He may be able to get going, but I think he's stalled the engine. Take another look at this, Jeremy. Again, it was coming out of turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a kink there in front of the pit entrance there. It really shouldn't be a problem whatsoever, and why he lost control there, I really have no idea. He really wasn't very close to the car in front of him. You've been under full power there for a good 100 yards or more before that point in the racetrack. It was later than he lost it later on. Well, there he is going through the kink there, and down the back end goes. But this is on the exit of the final part of that corner. As I say, you've been under full acceleration there for quite some time before that, so very strange place to lose it, and a great shame. And once again, there'll be probably no points for Castroneves. Here's Carl Hogan.
In the case of Helio, what did he say on the radio after that spin?
Well, he didn't say anything. He was trying to control the car, and the back end just broke loose on him, and he did a good job to keep it off the wall. We're disappointed, there's no doubt about it, but we'll see what happens.
Obviously, you're going to leave them out just to see if you can collect some points.
Oh, yeah. I think the only thing he did was flat spot some tires. So as soon as the pit's open, we'll bring him in and give him some new tires and see what happens.
Okay, should be exciting. Thanks.
Well, a disappointing day for Hogan. He's such a racer, isn't he? And you can just see written all over him. Just such a disappointment. As you said earlier, Jeremy, even if he hadn't managed to get back to Montoya, who'd have built up quite an advantage, a third place would have been remarkable for that team.
Yeah, it really would. It is exactly what they needed, was a good, strong weekend. I mean, what's interesting, we talked about how fast he's been in each of the first 3 races this season, but at the beginning of the weekend on each occasion, this team struggled. They worked very, very hard indeed. Race engineer Casper van der Schoot and his assistant Andy Baum, they worked so well together with Helio Castroneves, and by the time the race came around, that car was very competitive. Here's another youngster, though, his countryman, Cristiano de Mata and Helio Castroneves. They had so many battles in Formula 3 together in their homeland, and Cristiano de Mata now 4th place for the Toyota engine. That's the MCI car, Arciero Wells Racing. A brilliant drive by Cristiano de Mata, and clearly good fuel consumption from that Toyota engine enables him to make that pit stop with the leaders under caution, going longer than the other guys as we see Castroneves into the pits for fresh tyres. But a great drive by Cristiano de Mata. You know, it's interesting, last year at this racetrack, Robbie Gordon had the best run ever for a Toyota, up until that stage at least. He finished 7th. Castroneves there back into the fray, but he is 1 lap down in 18th position.
So what a disappointment. What a way for it to end for Castroneves. We were counting on him to give us a bit of excitement towards the end of this race. Really was a great opportunity for him to close up on Juan Montoya, but Montoya is just doing a great job. Just flicking through the onboard cameras here. There we are on board with Robbie Gordon down in 21st position at the moment. Jimmy Vasser, he's in 11th, but really doesn't seem to have been able to do a great deal this afternoon. 50 laps to go as they begin to pick up the pace and look forward to going green once again. Michael Andretti, the hometown hero. Lots of local support for him here, of course. Mario Andretti set up home here, well, his family set up home here many years ago. Started off his racing career at Nazareth, but now it's time to get this race underway again, and Juan Montoya again makes a great restart and opens up an advantage straight away.
Yeah, and there's 2 lap cars between the race leader and PJ Jones. There he is there going through the screen. Paul Tracy there, the cool car, in 3rd place, and behind Paul Tracy is Cristiano de Mata. But Mauricio Guzman out of the screen, Alex Barron out of the screen, and then PJ Jones. But the race leader once again, Ben, as you say, able to get away.
Juan Montoya seems to be timing it perfectly on the restarts and just leaves them behind. And those lapped cars between himself and the 2nd place car, there it is, the silver black car of PJ Jones. Those lap cars between them are... Oh, and that's Castroneves. Castroneves has lost control of his car, and his afternoon has come to an even worse ending than he imagined. What a shame. What a way for this weekend to end. It's been so strong for him, so brilliant for the team. He's been running competitively all weekend, and perhaps the frustration has got to him. The frustration of losing a possible podium finish. Even his first ever win was an within reach here today, and now he's thrown it in the wall, and it's all over.
Cold tyres. I mean, he's only done 2 laps after the green, and cold tyres has caught out Helio Castroneves, and look, disappointment written, well, disgust in actual fact, written all over the face of Carl Hogan, along with a little bit of anxiety. He wants to make sure his driver is not hurt, and we can see a replay. There he is into turn 3 there, got too deep into the corner and slides all the way around the wall here through turn 3 and turn 4, and a long slide around the wall, and Helio Castroneves, the gloves are off. The kart safety team there is on the scene, and they are unbuckling Helio Castroneves, and again Carl there just making sure that his driver is okay, hoping that his driver is okay, but he will be very, very disappointed. That was a silly mistake, I think, assuming nothing else went wrong, of course, but it would be surprising if it was not anything more than Castroneves diving too deep into that corner, trying to make up some ground at the back of the field. There was a bunch of cars right in front of him at that restart, and trying to make up a place or two, and perhaps his impatience at the end of the day has caught out Helio Castroneves. A great shame, a great performance all weekend by this young Brazilian. He has so much talent, and he just needs to harness that impetuosity, and he will become a race winner.
The protege of Emerson Fittipaldi, a man who is involved in his career development, and of course almost didn't have a drive this year at all. He was pushed out of the Bettenhausen team. Bettenhausen needed money for this year, and it looked as though Helio might not even end up with a drive this year until Hogan gave him the opportunity with that Lola chassis, and what a tremendous opportunity, and they've done so well with it. Brilliant performances in all 4 opening races to this season. They really have shown that Lola are back, and that they are a chassis manufacturer to be considered now, along with the rest, along with Reynard and Swift, as potential race winners. But sadly, this weekend has come to a very damp ending for them, a very disappointing ending. Let's just hope that Helio is uninjured in that car.
Absolutely right there. Certainly a heavy impact. Just 2 laps after the green, the cars were not yet up to full racing speed, nor would the tyres have been up to full working temperature. And well, Michael Andretti, we're on board with him. He knows all about how difficult these cars can be on cold tyres. He was leading the race last year when he crashed at turn 3 there on the exit of the corner at a restart. And so he knows even the best can make mistakes like that. So you certainly don't want to heap too much blame on Helio Castroneves, and certainly he really had run so well, and great news not only for Hogan Racing to see that car going so well, but also Mercedes-Benz and Ilmor Engineering there. I know a lot of people watch this show in Brixworth, England, at the home of Ilmor Engineering, and also in Huntingdon, where Lola Cars has worked so hard on developing this car and making it a potential winner. Clearly, it is just that.
Well, good news about Helio Castroneves. Apparently he's out of the car and walking, and so he's not injured from the accident. That's excellent news, and they'll just have to regroup and do battle again next time out in Rio for the home race for the Brazilian Castroneves. Disappointing end to his day today. Welcome back to the Nazareth Speedway as we're in the closing stages of round 4 of the FedEx Championship Series. Helio Castroneves' car being hoisted up behind the wrecker, and this is what happened to Helio Castroneves. This was up at turn 3. He'd already lost it coming into the corner, and then he did the wall of death act right round the outside, skating along that concrete wall until it finally came to a halt. A very high-speed accident ripped off the whole right-hand side of the car. The safety crew doing their usual excellent job of clearing it all up, but a big mess made down there. Helio Castroneves has walked away from the accident, so that's great news, but such a disappointing way for his day to end, his whole weekend to end, and it's left Montoya in front in this race from PJ Jones in second, and Paul Tracy, who now moves up into third.
Behind Paul Tracy is Cristiano D'Amata in the Toyota engine car. A great run by Cristiano D'Amata This would be the best finish by a Toyota if he can maintain that 4th place. The best previously, of course, by Max Papis, who finished 5th in Houston last year. 5th place now is Adrian Fernandez. That is the car of Max Papis. Papis is 1 lap down in 13th. Behind Fernandez, who is in 5th, comes Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi and Dario Franchitti in 8th, the final car on the lead lap. Then Alex Barron, Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser and Greg Moore, the final points position players at the moment.
Interesting in terms of the championship, none of the main players are very well up in this race. The championship leader, Greg Moore, down in 12th place. Adrian Fernandez is doing best of the rest because he's in 5th place and he's 2nd in the title battle. It certainly leaves things wide open.
On board we are with Robbie Gordon there. Robbie Gordon is now 5 laps down after a few problems early on, and there he goes past the crash scene. You can see the trucks there both sides of the track, and that clean-up operation going on there on the right-hand side against the wall. Quite a bit of work still to be done there. A lot of oil dry, as they call it in this country, down there to mop up some of that excess fluid that leaked out of Helio Castroneves' broken car.
Well, let's see what's going to happen in the final part of this race. We've got 38 laps to go at the moment. Still, obviously, a few more laps, I would think, under yellow conditions before they're going to set them off. But there will be a charge. There will be a last dash to the line in this race. Montoya has basically looked in control, except from Helio Castroneves. He always looked under pressure from Castroneves, but I'm not sure that PJ Jones has got the sort of pace that's going to trouble him.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, Ben, PJ can run pretty quickly, clearly, but the problem for him is those 2 lapped cars, Mauricio Gugelmin and Alex Barron, that are ahead of him when we come down to the restart. There goes the dryer and the blower there. All that oil dry stuff, that cement dust there. God, dear, nasty stuff.
Well, let's hope it does the job properly. It does do a great job of soaking up the oil, and that's absolutely vital on a track like this. There's another great overhead shot of the Nazareth Speedway. As you look down, you can see at the bottom of the picture is the kink, which used to be flat out, now very much a big lift off the throttle. Start-finish line just before that. Then to the right of the picture, that's the long turn 2, which seems to go on forever. They go around there off the power for a long time, and then back on it, up the back stretch, and then braking and into turn 3. And that corner at the left there, that's where Helio Castroneves had the accident a little while ago. So we're looking at the Nazareth Speedway as we get ready for the final part of this race. 36 laps are left to go. Can Juan Montoya hold on to take his 2nd win in a row in the 1999 series? What a remarkable performance that will be if he can hold on for a 2nd win. They're taking the cars in by the pit lane to avoid that area that they're still trying to clean up on the right-hand side there. You can see the sweepers are up in action, a lot of dust around, and the cars therefore being brought through pit lane to avoid that dust and dirt at the moment. Michael Andretti, we rode on board with him there for a moment. He's lying quite a long way down the order. He's in 6th place, not too bad. So that will earn him some points. Just looking at the championship positions there, Jeremy, Adrian Fernandez, the most points of our front runners in the title battle. He's in 5th place at the moment, and really it's not a great day for most of the drivers who are up there in the championship.
In actual fact, by my calculations, Juan Montoya would take the lead in the championship by virtue of the fact that he started on the pole and has led most laps. He will therefore, if he can maintain this lead, he will score 22 points, which will almost double his tally from before, which was 23. If Adrian Fernandez stays in 5th place, he will score 10 points. To add to his tally of 33, so that would therefore be 45 for Juan Montoya and 43 for Adrian Fernandez. Not bad after 4 FedEx Championship Series races to be leading the point standings. Quite remarkable.
That is amazing. That is just phenomenal. And Juan Montoya has just come onto this champ car scene and blitzed them. It's a remarkable performance. Of course, he's come into a team which is used to winning. He's come into really what is the top team in the championship. They've won the last 3 series titles. That's got to be a major part of this.
Yeah, absolutely right. That team is a well-oiled organisation, and the equipment package they have, of course, is the one to beat, has been for the past 3 years. It is a new Reynard chassis this year, but really just a development of the previous year's car. It's a new engine from Honda, the HRS engine, but again, well proven before we began this season. The Firestone tyres, well, they won 18 out of 19 races last year, so he certainly has the package. There, though, is the Team Cool Green guys watching on as their man, Paul Tracy, is in 3rd place. But Juan Montoya, you know, there's been a lot of talk this weekend about this new wing package, those tiny wings, as we see Paul Tracy coming through again into the pit lane with the other cars to steer clear of that debris all on the track there. But back to Juan Montoya, they've been talking about this wing package. Of course, for him, ignorance is absolute bliss. He didn't know how good the cars felt around this racetrack with the big wings, with the big downforce. His first experience at Nazareth Speedway was with the little wing package. To him, it was nothing more than ordinary. So he has had no trouble adapting to this package because there's been nothing to adapt to other than the racetrack, which he took a liking to right away.
Well, it certainly is brilliant driving from Juan Montoya, as well as being in a top car. He's made no mistakes. 2 pit stops today have been perfect, and of course that relies a lot on the driver, making sure he stops in the right place, doesn't try and pull away too quickly. We saw that mistake, for example, from Unser Castroneves. No sign of those mistakes from Juan Montoya today, just keeping it all under control. And you can see why Mo Nunn, the chief engineer at Ganassi Racing, is so excited about this young man and the potential he has for the next 3 years. It is a 3-year deal he has with the team. If he carries on like this, there might be interest from elsewhere, but a 3-year deal for Juan Montoya with the Ganassi team. Jones in 2nd place, Tracy 3rd, D'Amato 4th, ahead of Fernandez, then Andretti, Fittipaldi, Franchitti, Alex Barron, Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser, and Greg Moore are top 12. You're looking at some of the cars that are out of this race, but a remarkably high number of runners still in this race. We were told there would be carnage. Some of the drivers reckoned it would be a complete disaster, this race. I don't think they've been proved quite right, do you?
Not really at all. I think it's been a very exciting race. There has not been a whole heck of a lot of passing, I must admit. But, you know, this racetrack, it really doesn't promote close racing, or doesn't promote overtaking, because it is so fast, because it is so sinuous, really. This is an undulating layout here. There's ups and downs, which is unusual for an oval. And these 3 corners with relatively short straights doesn't give the cars time to build up a whole heck of a lot of speed. You do about 190 or a little bit over 190 down the back straight, but there really isn't time to use the slipstream to be able to pull out and pass anybody. And because of the lack of downforce, particularly through turn 2, it's tough to get really close behind and get that run off the corner in order to make a move under braking for turn 3. So the racetrack really does not promote overtaking, but nevertheless, it's certainly been a lot of excitement this afternoon, I reckon.
Absolutely. Well, the car's continuing to go around behind the pace car. Building up, though, now to the restart of this race. There are 30 laps to go. We've had a little bit of a pause while the clean-up operation has taken place, and it looks as though it won't be long. Might be 1 more lap of pace car, and then hopefully this race will get underway again with Montoya out in front.
There's been criticism in Formula 1, hasn't there, about the lack of overtaking, and the FIA president, Max Mosley, has said that, you know, that he doesn't see that as a problem. He places a premium on overtaking to make it more exciting. Well, that's certainly what we're seeing this afternoon.
So Montoya leads them round. Now then, can he do the last bit of the job here today? Can he control his emotions, not get too carried away? Remember that the tyres are not fully up to temperature. Make no mistakes when it comes to the restart, and manage to open up his advantage. 2 cars behind him are not playing a part in the lead battle. He's got a 2-car buffer between himself and the 2nd-placed car of PJ Jones. Then Jones has to watch out behind himself, because Paul Tracy has got no cars between him and Jones, so that could be a good battle for 2nd place on the restart. Then it's D'Amato and Fernandez, with Fernandez, remember, running in 5th place in the Reynard, teammate to BJ Jones, but looking here to score points in the championship and can keep himself right up at the top of the championship battle.
Yes, and they're again on board with Michael Andretti, and we've talked about those 2 cars between the first 2 cars in the race, Montoya and PJ Jones, with the cars of Gujmin, who's 2 laps down, and Barron, who is 1 lap down between between them. And there in the picture there is PJ Jones. Behind PJ Jones, as you say, the third place car of Paul Tracy, and behind Paul Tracy are both Cristiano De Mata and Adrian Fernandez. So the second, third, fourth and fifth place cars are all together on the track. Then there's another bunch of lap traffic before we get back to the two Newman Haas cars of Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi.
PJ Jones in the best position he's ever been in a Champ Car race. His previous best finish, 9th place at Detroit back in 1996 in his rookie season, in fact. And that was a little while ago. He's never run up front in the races.
No, that was a brilliant drive, though, in wet conditions in Detroit with Dan Gurney's unloved Eagle chassis that year. It was a brilliant drive in diabolical conditions. But this afternoon, he's driving an exemplary race. And again, Gugelmin there, a bad restart, and Montoya leaps well ahead there. And now can Jones get past Gugelmin, as did Alex Brown? Yes, he can. Gugelmin there stays well out of the way, and good move there by the very experienced driver, Mauricio Gugelmin, and he lets also Tracy and De Mata go through.
Cars allowed to pass as soon as the green flag waves, so they won't get into trouble for passing Gugelmin before the line there. That was okay because the green flag had waved by that point. But once again, Juan Montoya storms away up front, charges away on cold tyres, trying to avoid making any mistakes. And can PJ Jones now get rid of Alex Barron, his teammate last year when they were together at All-American races? Now PJ Jones finds himself in a much more competitive car and in second place in a Champ Car race. He needs to hold on to that.
And trying to break the Reynard monopoly, PJ Jones, there he is, second place, Swift chassis, built in San Clemente, Southern California, Ford Cosworth engines, Firestone tyres, and he is running such a good race this afternoon. Unaccustomed he is in the Champ Car leagues to running at the front of the pack, but no stranger to running at the pack in other formula. He's won races in Indy Lights, he's won races in GTP sports cars for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers team, and now second place in the bag apparently. There's Paul Tracy behind him. Can he chase down the leader? Does he really need to chase down the race leader?
Well, yes, exactly. That's a good question, Jeremy. Is he going to settle for second place here? PJ Jones looking for his career best finish, and perhaps he's not going to do anything silly at this point. He already had a spin, remember? He got away with that one when he spun to the grass on the inside. He has survived that moment, I think, seeing how quickly Montoya has pulled away. And Montoya's lead up to nearly 6 seconds. That's incredible. We've only been had about 5 or 6 laps of green, and he's opened up virtually a second a lap.
Fantastic. 21.3 last time around, 21.6 this lap. I think that's the fastest lap of the race. Tremendous pace there, taking full advantage of that clear track, so that when he gets up behind the slower traffic, it gives him more time at least to be able to try and make a move and get some more lap traffic between himself and the second place car of PJ Jones.
Just seeing Cal Wells being interviewed. He's the owner of the car of Cristiano De Mata and of Scott Pruitt. Remember De Mata, there he is. He is running in a very competitive 4th place. This would be the best ever Toyota finish. It, of course, would be De Mata's best finish. This is his first season. This is only his 4th race. Just like Juan Montoya, for that matter, who's leading. It's great to see so many new names at the top here. Jeremy, of the usual front runners in that top 4, the only regular one is Paul Tracy, and he hasn't exactly been up front very much in recent times.
No, it's been a while since Paul Tracy has run up front. This will be a big morale booster for Paul Tracy. He's working with a new race engineer this weekend, John Dick, who had worked with Paul the last year and a half at Team Cool Green, has left the organisation to go to Archer Wells to work with Scott Pruitt. Instead, Tino Belli, who has been with this team on and off over the last few years, he was Raoul Bozel's engineer 2 years ago, joined that team again over the winter as a development engineer, and now is pressed into race engineer duties, which he is sharing with Tony Sicali, and that partnership is working very well indeed.
Well, Paul Tracy has driven very cleanly this afternoon. He got a bit of a bad boy image last year, remember? A number of incidents involving Tracy. He wasn't allowed to even race at the season opener this year at Homestead because of some of those tactics. But now Tracy is running in 3rd place. Never finished on the podium last year. Had to see his teammate Dario Franchitti win on several occasions. It could be a good opportunity this afternoon for Paul Tracy. But what about this man, Juan Montoya from Colombia? Colombia's going to go crazy about this man. I tell you, the Colombian radio commentators, they were almost bouncing out of the commentary box in Long Beach when he came through to win his first race last time out. and the interest level in Colombia must just be on a stratospheric climb to see their man doing so well in such an international championship. Brilliant stuff from Juan Montoya.
Absolutely flawless he has been this weekend, as he was in Long Beach. And you know, before this race started this afternoon, people were questioning his temperament in traffic. He's known to be a bit of a fiery character, but he has not pushed himself too hard this weekend. He's been content to sit behind other cars. He knows that if it's difficult for him to overtake other cars, then it's going to be equally difficult for other people to overtake him. So he's kept his wits about him and just driven magnificently within himself, and it's out in front of this lead, right in front of this field now. 5.6 seconds his lead, just 13 laps to go.
There, another view again of Cristiano de Mata, the other rookie who's running so well in this race, the Indy Lights champion of last year, the equivalent in Europe of the Formula 3000 series. So funnily enough, we've got the Formula 3000 champion in Juan Montoya leading this race, and the Indy Lights champion, the American version if you like, running in 4th position here today. And for de Mata, very impressive. They weren't really on the pace earlier on in the weekend, and yet they seem to have come up with a car that's working extremely well in this afternoon's race, working with his Scottish race engineer Ian Watt, who's been very impressed with Cristiano so far this season. I think he's going to be even more impressed after this afternoon. They've worked extremely well together. And it just shows you, doesn't it, that Toyota really are there to be counted now with Honda, with Mercedes, and with Ford power units.
Yeah, that's interesting. There was a lot of high hopes coming into this weekend that the Toyota would run well, but you know, the drivability is still a bit of a problem with this engine. There's a lot more power than there was in the past, but it's not as tractable as the Honda engine, or perhaps the Ford. And while the Toyota was expected to be up at the front, because of the new configuration here and the fact that drivers are having to lift off the throttle much more in turn 2, or even brake into turn 2 and then get back on the power again, the power delivery has not been quite so good. So in qualifying, in ultimate race trim, the guys with the Toyotas were struggling a little bit, but in race configuration they worked hard on getting the car right for the race, and a great drive by Cristiano de Mata.
Just found a way past Robbie Gordon safely there. It looked a little bit worrying for a moment, but he squeezed past. Gordon got out of the way. Maurizio Gugelmin also still running, but a long way down the field. 18th place for Maurizio Gugelmin, and Mark Blundell's only 1 place ahead in 17th. What a disappointment for Blundell after running so competitively all weekend and being in a strong top 5 position. It was purely the timing of the pit stop that went wrong for Blundell. And it was a little bit similar with Frank Kiddy as well, who was running 3rd for much in this race. He finds himself down in 8th place now, as Juan Montoya has just 7 laps still to go here. He's driven flawlessly this afternoon. Even when he got in a wheel-to-wheel battle with Helio Castroneves, he was aggressive, but he didn't overdo it. The same when he got into a wheel-to-wheel battle with PJ Jones. He does not give up his position easily, but when he saw he was beaten, he let them through. He knew there would be another opportunity. The team has been remarkable. Both times in the pits, they've managed to get him out ahead of his opposition. They got him out ahead of Castroneves on. And again, this championship-winning team that Chip Ganassi has created over the last few years is just going from strength to strength. Can anybody beat them consistently? Well, at the moment, I have to say no, because nobody looks like challenging them on a consistent weekend-by-weekend basis. Perhaps Team Green are the closest, and they've got a car up there in the top 3 with Paul Tracy.
And Dario Franchitti, the teammate of Paul Tracy, good valuable points this weekend. He'll be disappointed because he did have a pretty good car this weekend, but 8th place, having made that pit stop a little bit earlier than Paul Tracy, and it was just the wrong time for him. The yellow came out right afterwards. It enabled the race leaders to make their pit stops under yellow flag conditions, and they gained a lap on Dario Franchitti and, well, a whole bunch of other drivers as well.
Just 3 laps to go now, 3 miles for Juan Montoya to take his 2nd win in a row in the Champ Kart Series. He's come in as a rookie, had no idea what racing on ovals was all about. He went to his first oval at Homestead to start the season, and he's going to to come through to win on his third visit to an oval, but his first ever visit to a 1 mile oval. I tell you what, 12 months ago, when Jimmy Vasser won this race, it was the first win for Ganassi on any 1 mile oval, and here they are. Their new boy is going to do it all over again here today.
And I think Jimmy Vasser's had a pretty good car this weekend. He thought he had a good race car, but the traffic situation and the fact that he made his second pit stop again too soon, and he was now back down in 11th place. But here we are, just 1 lap to go for Juan Montoya.
Here he comes, the Colombian, the 23-year-old from Bogota in Colombia, is going to take his second win in the Champ Car Series. Back-to-back victories for Juan Montoya for the Ganassi Racing Team. He comes up to cross the line. He's done it again. Wow, fantastic. This guy is a real star. Second place for PJ Jones, his best ever finish by a long, long way, and on the podium for a year. Paul Tracy gets a decent result in the end. Cristiano D'Amata, the best ever finish for Toyota in 4th. Adrian Fernandez 5th. Michael Andretti 6th, ahead of teammate Christian Fittipaldi. Welcome back as the excitement begins to subside from this race here at the Nazareth. The view overhead of this 1 mile oval as Juan Montoya has taken an historic second win, his first win on an oval track, and all-round tremendous performance today from the Colombian. The winner by 5.1 seconds in the end from PJ Jones, his best ever result in second. Paul Tracy finishing in 3rd place today ahead of Cristiano D'Amata, another Brazilian rookie with a tremendous drive. Adrian Fernandez in 5th place ahead of Michael Andretti, the Nazareth man, in 6th place. Christian Fittipaldi 7th, then Franchitti. Alex Barron, his best ever finish there in 9th place ahead of Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser and Greg is our winner today, Juan Montoya.
High fives from Chip Ganassi, and Juan Montoya comes out of the race in consecutive victory. Juan, your guys in the pits, tell me about that first pit stop. Was that what won you this race?
Well, I think they deserve this win, you know. We had a really good car. First time the car wasn't, you know, I was sliding a bit and Elliot got by me. The second time, I think it was Alex Barron. He just chopped on me and and he got by me. But both times, the guys in the pits did beautiful.
How close did you come to having contact with Helio? Because it looked like one time in traffic it was very close.
Nah, it was all right, you know. I know Eddie is very aggressive, and I knew he would like to win this race, and he was trying really hard. I was thinking a bit more about the points, you know. Top 5 here will be beautiful, but it's a win.
It is for the second consecutive time. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Jan?
Well, of course, a great run for PJ Jones. And PJ, they said you couldn't pass here, but you showed them that wasn't the case.
I could do without that spin through the infield, though. I mean, my heart was like this. I had a pretty good car, you know, a little loose at the end. Nothing I could do with Juan. The only way I was going to get him is in traffic. And I got him once, and I just couldn't.
Obviously pretty happy you stayed with the Swift.
Yeah, I mean, the car ran great all day. I think it was better than anything else out there. I just want to say thanks to the team, Vistion, for, giving me a good run. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. This is awesome.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
PJ Jones, second place finisher, and Montoya taking the championship lead with his second in a row, and he's championship leader.